We know that Jupiter has the largest cloud deck in the solar system, and we know that there are mysterious structures within these clouds that no one has ever seen before. So what if there is some sort of alien technology up there? What if it's some sort of temple floating in the clouds? And if it is, how would we even find it? Well, first off, let's talk about how such a thing could exist at all. To build such a structure, you would need a material that is stronger than the hydrogen sulfide found deep in Jupiter's atmosphere, and lighter than the ammonia ice crystals found high in the upper clouds. An ideal building block would be some form of silicon carbide, strong enough to withstand the extreme pressures deep in Jupiter's storms. If you heat the air inside one side of the balloon more than the other side, then the air will flow towards the cooler part. Well, it's possible that Jupiter was once a hive of activity, home to many alien species living in its clouds. But as time went on, many of these species went extinct, leaving behind only ruins. This probe would have to be able to withstand the extreme pressures and temperatures found deep in Jupiter's storms, and it would also need to be equipped with some sort of sensor to detect the faint signals that the temple might be sending out. The most obvious sensor to include would be a radar, which could penetrate the thick clouds and reveal any solid objects hiding beneath. But if the temple is sending out a signal in the visible light spectrum, then a camera might be a better option. Maybe it's just some sort of alien ruin left over from a long extinct civilization. The temple may be just one part of a vast defense network, a way to protect themselves from any invaders who might come looking for them. But it's also an exciting one. If we can't find the temple, it'll leave scientists with more questions than answers. There's always something new to discover, something that challenges our understanding of the universe and pushes us to learn more. Who knows? Maybe one day we'll find the temple and unlock the secrets of Jupiter. Was there ever life on Jupiter? If so, where is it now? If you did, please make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Did the aliens intentionally leave their home, or were they wiped out by some unknown catastrophe? Perhaps there are sensors hidden in the clouds that can detect incoming spacecraft from miles away, giving them time to prepare. Maybe there are weapons hidden inside the temple itself, just waiting to be used. Or maybe it's being deliberately hidden from prying eyes. What if there really is a civilization living on Jupiter, one that doesn't want to be found? Maybe they learned from the mistakes of the past and are trying to hide their presence on the planet. Maybe they know that we are coming for them, that we would do to them what the humans did to the native peoples of Earth. Maybe they've been watching us for a long time, studying our history and knowing what we are capable of. Other species may have eventually figured out how to use Jupiter's energy to keep themselves alive, turning their homes into giant rotating fortresses hidden deep within the storms. This flow of air will cause the balloon to move towards the colder region. Well, first off, we need to get to Jupiter. NASA's Juno probe arrived at Jupiter in 2016 and has been orbiting the planet ever since. As it gets closer, it would encounter the giant storms and try to avoid them, perhaps even using Jupiter's gravity to slingshot itself towards the equator. Once it reaches the right altitude, it would begin searching for the telltale signs of the temple, a giant rotating structure surrounded by flowing clouds and lightning. It was designed to study Jupiter's atmosphere and magnetic field, and it's provided us with some stunning images of the planet's surface. But Juno was not designed to search for alien temples. For that, we would need something much more advanced. The same thing happens with Jupiter's atmosphere. If you create a big dome-shaped structure out of a special material that absorbs lightning strikes, then the resulting temperature difference will cause the clouds around it to flow inwards, causing the entire structure to slowly rotate. The aliens may have built their temple to take advantage of this effect. Scientists would then work to analyze the data and figure out what the temple is all about. They would look for signs of life, either past or present, and try to piece together the history of the temple and the civilization that built it. By using the energy of Jupiter's storms to slowly rotate the structure, they can use the centrifugal force to counteract the effects of gravity and keep the temple floating, and light enough to float all the way up to the top of the atmosphere. On Earth, objects float when they're less dense than the surrounding fluid, like air. Well, Jupiter is not only the largest planet in the solar system, it's also the most volcanically active. Some of the volcanoes on Jupiter's moon, Io, reach heights of several kilometers and regularly erupt. Every day, millions of tons of sulfur spew out of these volcanoes and are carried by Jupiter's winds all over the planet. The sulfur forms giant clouds that circle Jupiter's equator. As a result, the equatorial regions of Jupiter receive much more sunlight than the poles, making them much warmer and allowing liquid water to exist. In fact, it's believed that there are oceans of liquid water somewhere under Jupiter's clouds. Hot air balloons, for example, float because the air inside them is less dense than the air outside. See, the swings in temperature between the cold upper clouds and the warm equatorial regions create giant convection currents that constantly circulate Jupiter's atmosphere. These convection currents generate powerful electric fields that cause lightning to strike over and over again, providing a nearly inexhaustible source of energy. So anything caught inside would have a very hard time getting out. The most violent storms on Jupiter are the Great Red Spot and its white counterpart, the Great Blue Spot. Both are gigantic anticyclones, and both have been raging for centuries. But as far as we know, nothing in our solar system is made out of antimatter, which would be necessary to make something float on Jupiter since its atmosphere is mostly hydrogen gas, and that is actually slightly less dense than regular matter. But there might be another way. In some parts of Jupiter's atmosphere, the pressure is so high that even though the density of the gases is lower than on Earth, it is still enough to keep solid objects from floating all the way up to the top of the atmosphere. If there's a spot where the atmospheric pressure drops suddenly, then a heavier object can suddenly become buoyant just like a balloon. A sudden drop in pressure like this can happen if two air masses collide. And although the atmosphere of Jupiter is mostly hydrogen, it is full of impurities which form ammonia ice clouds, and these form gigantic storms that rage across the planet. These storms can be huge, often spanning tens of thousands of kilometers and lasting hundreds of years. It's possible that under certain conditions, something could float all the way to the top of Jupiter's atmosphere if it could survive the incredible pressures found deep in the planet as storms. And that's where the temple comes in. The massive storms on Jupiter are not only incredibly large, but also carry enormous amounts of energy. So here's the idea. What if an alien race somehow built a temple within one of these giant storms? But why would aliens build a temple in such a dangerous place? What if the aliens used the giant storms as a power source? But how would the aliens use this energy? Well, let's go back to the idea of the hot air balloon. But why would they build a temple in the first place? But if the temple is trapped inside the storms, how would we ever find it? Let's imagine that we send a new probe to Jupiter specifically designed to find the temple. As the probe approaches Jupiter, it would fly through the outer atmosphere and begin scanning for signs of life. When the probe finally spots the temple, it would enter orbit around Jupiter and begin transmitting data back to Earth. But what if the temple is not sending out any signals at all? If that's the case, then they've probably taken steps to defend themselves. It's a scary thought, the idea that there may be intelligent life out there that wants to stay hidden from us. These are the sorts of questions that keep me up at night, but it's also why I love science. I hope you enjoyed this video.